All right. Um, First of all, because I probably just exported this to YouTube directly, thank you for watching this. I'll be just going over some wiki stuff. Right now, you're just seeing my Twitter feed, but it was just to kind of like get the message out there. So yeah, this is just going to be a small overview on basically how to edit stuff or how to get engaged with fighting game wikis or wikis for other communities, because a lot of them, as you can see, might not share the same visual design, but there are some elements that are common to all of them. Hello, what's up, Yoshido Brown? I see you in chat. Um, Basically, what I wanted to go through is kind of like the level of how complete you can get a resource of to become over time. For that, I would like to take Dasloop as an example. Dasloop as a wiki is probably one of the oldest around. It mostly focuses on Arc System Works games, and it really, I gotta say, it's incredible how much help like the little stuff powers over. Sorry, not little help, but how much work the given the small amount of stuff that they have that they pour into creating these resources. I mean, for most of these games, you have full frame data, you have full movesets, description for strategy. It's really quite something to behold. And as you can see, you can have like pretty colors, and I believe that even something like where is it, Rev2 wiki, you even have like a customizable, in this case, like a character select screen, like lifted out of the game with I think these guys even added like colors and stuff for like when you are plus or minus for certain attacks. Okay, maybe not on this page, but they do have like color coded for like normals and stuff. So when used properly, wikis can be an extremely powerful kind of like, or like the wiki markup can be super powerful. It's super versatile, and you can do a lot of stuff. Of course, like they all have their flaws when people vandalize them and include incorrect information, but when handled well, you can actually get like really good mileage out of them, as you can see, like with uses of tabs here, which are kind of like this add-on, not native for MediaWiki, but definitely something that it's worth adding to your page. So yeah, kind of like Dasloop, I'd say that it's kind of like one of the gold standards of how to handle a wiki page in terms of presentation and content. But in order to get there, though, there's many in-between steps, and I don't want to use kind of like this instance to like pile down on other wikis, but we're gonna be analyzing kind of like wikis that are kind of like at a starting state, intermediate state, advanced state, and so on. So for example, from the ones that I have here, I'm featuring, I put kind of like Dasloop as sort of like the most advanced one. This one that is called Maps Wiki is actually fairly recent, but kind of like what prompted me to do this video was sort of like also giving these guys a hand and seeing like the state that it's at, which is not bad, but it's certainly fairly early. So we could put this kind of like a work in progress one. Misumi, I'd say that it has come really long way. It's definitely at probably like in the second best. I actually have Dasloop wiki twice. Then probably like Dream Cancel comes in between, and then you have something like the Super Fighting wiki. So if we are, like I said earlier, like if we look at these wikis, they do have some common elements, but the presentation and many of the features are kind of like, it's very obvious, kind of like which one has the most time, or so like focus on how to present the information, not just to how to like include information, but how to present it. So let's begin, for example, here with the Shmaps Wiki. The Shmaps Wiki is fairly recent one. I think I'm also going to be showing kind of like small tricks and tips and tricks on how to like identify these things. For example, how can I know how old one of these wiki pages is? Like the special pages here, this tab that you'll find in many of the sites here. This is kind of like native to Wikipedia, and you can have some really interesting insight. For me, kind of like the shorthand way to do it is to look at the oldest pages. So if I open the oldest pages, I'll see that this was created in May of 2020. It could have been created a little bit early, but this is definitely a good way to gauge on how new a site is. By comparison, for example, if I look at Dust Loop, I'll see that I believe that this is over 10 years old now. Oh no, actually this is post of the, yeah, because I think they had like a server move or something. This is definitely not the oldest page in the wiki, but yeah, you can see, I think, well, Mizumi also had a move recently. They might not show the kind of like the oldest stuff properly, but let's see. Okay, 2011. So as you can see, this is kind of like after a merge that they had back in the day. That way you can see sort of like how the wiki, started, and to have an idea on where they're standing. So here, for example, we're again at the Shmups wiki. The Shmups wiki is fairly new. If I were to click any game, I believe that Donpachi Daifukatsu might be like the most advanced one. You see that they have kind of like these templates here at the top, and a page that could more or less be similar to anything that you'd find in other wiki. If I were to pick like a game at random, something like from KOF 14, most of these games have like this table of contents, and from there you can navigate to like different sections. So for example, let's go to characters. So if I click on characters, I'm there. Here they set it up so that when you click the portraits, you're actually taken to the pages. So most of kind of like these wikis are sort of like where you have sort of like a tree branch. So you kind of like the core of the tree here is like the main page where you can jump to games, and each game has characters, and then characters have their own subsection. So that's kind of like how everything is nested. Here, for example, at the sort of like this early state wiki, you can see that this is mostly text. They have like a nice summary of stuff. They have kind of like difference for the versions of this game, and for example, at the bottom you don't really have like an app box or like an app bar, but this is kind of like just to try to get some info across. If we go to something like the Super Fighting wiki, let's see a game that I'm more or less acquainted with. Where is Gundam Wing? So if I go to Gundam Wing, you'll see that kind of like you have like a basic tier list and sort of like the list of characters. So kind of like a level 2 character page, or like wiki will have some, more tables in this case, more graphics. But again, you don't really see many images, or kind of like you have the text is not really as condensed, like here, for example. But it's still not quite there yet. But this is kind of like the process that you go through when sort of like setting things up. We're already here on Dream Castle, so you'll see a lot of more kind of like, it's kind of like a combination of a lot more text but more videos. It becomes a little bit more interactive. And oh, I see that you're there on the chat, Charlene. What's up? So again, as I said, thanks for dropping by. I don't really want to use this as a kind of like way to like knock down your wiki. I think it's actually a great initiative, but I want to also use it to sort of like show how kind of like things progress over time. So Charlene here linked me to like Shibumaho Daisakusen. So here you can see that they have more standardized boxes, for example. And going down, you see like the exact same kind of like table information that you found, that we just saw kind of like on Dream Castle in other games. You'll see some GIFs and stuff. So this is kind of like the natural progress on how you tend to kind of like build information over time. Tarko says, I don't know what a shmups is. It's a shoot 'em up. It's basically a game where you are gunning for a high score and you get lots of bullets. They're quite fun, actually. So kind of like moving forward, I'd say that probably some of the kind of like more high level pages in Mizumi would be probably like Uniclear. And where is it? Oh yeah, and by the way, kind of like as you see, kind of like the more advanced, so to speak, a wiki gets, like the more filled in sometimes these sidebars get, because you start adding more information, and in the case of Dustloop, you have kind of like even these little tabs where you can expand info. So kind of like, I'd say like a mid-level wiki would have, you know, even sort of like these comparisons and a lot more images, maybe some hover text. This is kind of like the natural progression of stuff. And if I had to say kind of like what's kind of like the golden standard, if I recall correctly, probably like Venom's page, I believe, is the one that had like a lot of really intricate info. Yeah, this is what you'd say like when everyone thinks of kind of like what I would love to have the way that for my information to look like. It's like this: you have plenty of colors, and not just kind of like colors as in like character colors, but I mean sort of like colors to like highlight different stuff. Here you have sort of like the hitboxes, even, you know, like little prompts to show things. So yeah, this is kind of like probably what I'd say is like the page that I would link to when people are asking kind of like why would I bother, you know, with wikis over a dedicated website or like a Discord server. So, but also the point that I'm trying to get across is that these things are not really like happen over time. Like these 5 different wikis, they show kind of like a natural progression of things. But if I were to go back to the history tab, because a lot of people don't know about these tabs. When you land on a page, you're always on the read. Okay, sorry, I'm getting a question here. Actually, I do have a kind of not related to the question. Do you know much about custom styles on wikis? Like if I wanted to create a custom skin or modify some background table colors. Yeah, I can get on that. It's a little bit more kind of like something that not even myself I handle very well, because in all of these wikis that I've ever volunteered, I never had like server access, or like there's a guy that actually has worked both at Dustloop and Misumi called SageBark, who has been handling the skins for Misumi, and I've seen some add-ons where people have done stuff for Dream Cancel, but it's definitely something that unfortunately I haven't had first-hand experience implementing, but I will touch on that. But going back to what I was saying about kind of like how to get there, when you edit some stuff, of course you'll see the edit button, and clicking on the edit button will open, you know, all of the behind the scenes stuff in order to make the pages look as nice. Here you can see that they even had like an add-on to make stuff like highlight with colors, which is quite nice. But I also want to like make some emphasis on the history tab. So as you can see, like the history tab shows all of the edits here that Tarkus and Shotokan ever did to Venom's page. You can see that Venom's page has been a work since August of 2018. So it took, actually, wait a minute, even earlier. It's from April of 2017, around the time probably when our Rev 2 came out. So as you can see, these are really iterative works where you have multiple people collaborating in order to get to where you are today. Once I actually heard someone saying that kind of like working on wikis is sort of like when you leave your boots out for like little elves to put candy at night on Christmas or something like that. But here's kind of like you leave your information there, and then like little elves can come and fix whatever mistakes you made. Which is in a way a quite nice train of thought. It's like you're putting whatever knowledge you have and hoping that someone can add onto that. That's kind of like the main draw of working on this. So let's say, for example, that here, back at the Shmaps wiki, let's say that I'm a new person. I'm a guy who has never worked on a wiki. I'm like saying this, and then people are like, okay, you know, how can I do something? Places like Dustloop recently had like this box here that says, for example, help. You have like a general help, getting started, like what articles need a cleanup or so. But again, this is not the standard. You won't really find it on many of other wikis around. So what I usually do, I would kind of like look at what is missing, because red text means here that the page does not exist. This is something standard across all of MediaWiki. Blue text means that there's some information there. So for example, let's look at this first page, Cave. Cave will have some links, again, games that are not there, games that are there. You can actually find that all over other games. Or even, you have even examples where you have some blue links, but then you click on them and there's not really any information of them. If I recall correctly, I think it's the for real about Fatal. Yeah, this is just an image here. So for example, someone created this page, but they didn't really put any content on it. So it takes a little bit of kind of like scavenging around, digging to see actually where help is needed. If I don't really have any point of contact, I would maybe just kind of like see if I could create, let's say, one of these pages resembling some of the other companies here, or in the case of, let's say, the Super Fighting Wiki, they have some tournaments, but no, like what you want to do is kind of like also read sort of like any getting started boxes or whatever info that the admins may have left. Excuse me. But ultimately, you want to try to like follow the trend of what people are doing. However, we live in the era of Discord, where a lot of these places have their own dedicated servers. So here, for example, you can see the Mizumi server, where you have people with a dedicated wiki channel where they post their questions, or similar with Testloop, where people can go in and they have like a Q&A channel. So one of the better things that you can do, both as a kind of like an owner of these places or kind of like a frequent contributor, is to make it easy for people to find a way to contact you. So here you'll have, for example, the Discord link highlighted there. At Mizumi, we also have it, I believe, at the top. So that's also like a really good way to start. So let's say that people have already pointed you out on where to go, what to do. Another good way to find stuff to sort of like clean up is to see all of this wanted. I don't really know of many people who still use it like the way that they are, where they would like put some text and hoping for someone to fill in. But for example, if you go to like wanted categories, no, these are like standard messages. Let's see. Maybe I think this one will have several that are exactly. So for example, if you go to Dream Cancel, you'll see a bunch of like KOF characters here, where they have no categories, but the pages have been created. And what are categories, you may ask yourself? For example, let's go to Chang's KOF 14 page. So Chang has a page with information, move lists, you know, the whole business that we saw before. But then at the bottom, all of these pages have categories that mostly help like the admins know, or even the users. They can click on a character and see how many games they have appeared and stuff. So for example, the KOF 14 category has been created, and you can see all of the KOF characters. And then this category is nested inside another category where you can see all of the games hosted at the wiki. So you got like KOF 14, 13, 12, and so on. Here, for example, Chang doesn't have a category. Let's go back. So Chang, if I click on his, there's nothing. So kind of like, how can I do that? Like I have no idea. Well, let's dive back into the categories. Or let's see another character who might have a complete category. Let's say someone who's probably popular, like, or actually, there's probably Mai. But no, Mai is a Fatal Fury character. So let me go with someone. Oh yeah, like my main in this case. Where's Mian? So Mian is a character who's from KOF, who got introduced in 14, and she does have a character with like a bunch of images. You can make them look really nice, and in this way I can say, for example, Mian has 2 pages for 2 games in this wiki, has all of these images for move lists, move sets, whatnot. It's very neatly put together, and she is under a KOF character. So here I click, and then I see the characters from this series. If I wanted to do the same with Chang, I would copy this category. Then I would create this category, and in creating, I have to actually put them in these double square brackets. Double square brackets are usually for links, which means that if I add a summary like created character category, if I were to create this, then Chang's page will be nested and linked to the KOF character page. And then when I go back, I would see Chang Kohan there. So this is kind of like stuff that for people who are on the admin side of things, we want to like do a little bit more. It's kind of like it helps us put things in boxes in a way. I'd say that it's not very impactful for the end user, like they won't really see much on their end, but for people who are, you know, organizing these things, it's a really good help. Like categories is definitely something that you want to look into. And now that I'm kind of like thinking more where to start, a lot of the MediaWiki stuff, it's definitely worth looking before you even start. So here, for example, I kind of like already went to like the advanced editing portion. Like I'm already on categories all the way here. There's definitely more elementary stuff that you should go through first, like this editing pages, or for example, how to link to a different place. So here it's actually a lot of like reading. It's a little bit dry, but it's definitely worth going through it at least once. It shows, for example, here how to link to different sections or hide the text using like a line. So like if you're ever also trying to like get into this, please look at the MediaWiki page. It's actually a really good resource, and it works across all of these pages. So that's kind of like one way here, helping out with the categories. Same with the files. You'll have a bunch of like files where, not maybe here, but I guess in Mizumi you'll find a lot of those, where people are starting character pages and they need files for normals or specials and whatnot. So here you can see this is probably for like Melty Blood or chaos code. So again, you're probably not gonna like add random files, but it gives you an idea on what games could use a little bit of a hand on that. So kind of like this is sort of like the wanted stuff. Again, most of the stuff that goes here at the bottom, it's a lot more intricate in the sense that this is stuff that I would use when I'm going to a new wiki, just to like gauge what features you could add. If you go to like Dust Loop, for example, if here I go to special pages again, the version tab will show you a bunch of add-ons, because these wikis never really have like a vanilla installation, so to speak. They always have a bunch of extensions, and these extensions add a lot of functionality. Stuff that usually has like a description, but for example, I don't know, if I were to like read ads ref and reference tags for citation, it's not really like the most intuitive thing in the universe. But again, you can see also kind of like wikis who have a lot of extensions, usually they have them for a reason. So it's also a good idea to ask them how to, put those to use. That being said, I guess that I also want to talk about stuff that is not really as obvious as the things that you see here on the getting started or general help. Since I know that there are some people here who might be admins or guys who are on the back side of things, or like the back end of things, I'm gonna also, for example, touch on the custom skin or table colors and whatnot. So for the custom skins, for example, in the case of, where is it? For drink cancel. For drink cancel, I believe that they added like this dark mode toggle. For that, they added it not really via the CSS, but they added it via an extension, as I was speaking earlier. So here, if we go to like this dark mode, here you see that this extension is actually experimental. It's not really like 100% implemented for all wikis. It might break, but most of them actually have like this installation. So it said, for example, download your extensions folder and add a code at the local settings at the PHP file, configure as required, where they'll have probably like a more, actually, sorry, my bad, it's actually right here where they have some extra lines to add some stuff. And then navigate to the version tab, as I mentioned earlier, to like verify that the extension has been successfully added. So that's kind of like one way. The other way is that I believe on the CSS here in Mizumi. Let me see if I can. No, I forgot exactly how to check that, because what Sage did here in particular was when you go to the preferences on appearance, you can add some of these themes or skins and whatnot. Here on the themes, they actually added this dark theme, and this is a completely different way to implement it, not from the extensions themselves, but from other portions of the MediaWiki software. That unfortunately, since I don't have, as I said, access to a lot of this stuff, I believe Sage just contacted Chiburisu or any of their other admins to do. They handle it a little bit better, but there's actually several ways to sort of like configure your wiki page. So that's, hopefully that answered Charlene's question if they're still in the chat. Something else to talk about is also how the pages, like the front pages, are usually displayed on a lot of these games, or sorry, on a lot of these wikis. As you can see, for example, the Shmaps wiki, it's likely that they'll have the text written like directly on the front page. Oh yeah, Charlie. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I hope that helped a little bit. So here it has like a protection level for auto-confirm users, which means that only people who have their accounts confirmed can edit this page. I'll have a bunch of code that you won't really. It doesn't really show nicely on the editor itself. However, one thing that I recommend is for people to always copy their code on any changes that they want to make and have them on Notepad++. On Notepad++, you can have these files with an extension that it's called, let me just try it out. It's a .wiki file. What's kind of like the main draw about that? Well, if I were to just open regular Notepad++ and copy this code, it'll show it appeared the exact same way as it does for the main page. It doesn't have any highlighting. It's just very old and plain. However, if you actually were to paste this code on a .wiki file, it'll show it will be kind of like all of this rich text. And sorry, I got a question. So can I use VIM if I don't know how to use Notepad++? Yes, you can actually use several other editors, code editors. Actually, a lot of them even support editing from within them. Like, I believe that there was one that was suggested by Wikipedia where you can even just download that, have a bit of an add-on, and basically edit wiki pages from inside here. And then when you save, you can actually save the page itself. So there's several ways to do this. I just personally favor Notepad++ just because it's something that I used before in like computer science classes and whatnot. And it's fairly easy to just install and start editing. So here, for example, you see like how the text is actually a lot easier to follow. How they use, for example, all of these HTML tags for like small text on how to, change sizes, also big here. It's actually quite handy. What else? I think also Notepad++ having kind of like a find and replace function. It's by far one of the biggest kind of like game changers. Why is that? Because I kind of like got sidetracked here. At first I wanted to talk about the main page, but I think it's also good if I spend some time on Notepad++. What I wanted to get to originally is that you'll have some pages where you can edit some stuff like that. But then if you go here to the slope, I believe that they have it on modules. So you can also put kind of like all of this subsections, so to speak, in other places and then just display them to the user. And here, for example, I don't know if they changed it only for like admins or it's also for auto-confirm users, but you can also have like different permission levels so that, only people that you want touching your page can do that. Or even this is also a way to kind of like hide anything sensitive. You don't want people to like edit by mistake. So there's several ways on how to like customize your landing pages, which is something to also take into account. But if I want to move to Notepad++, or sorry, like Notepad editing in general, I want to touch on kind of like templates. So templates here in this case they can mean two things. One thing is the templates that you use to add to different pages. So here, if I were to search pages by prefix, what does that mean? Prefix is basically like the different types of stuff that you can have on a wiki. Main being the main pages of the site. MediaWiki being stuff that you would say kind of like for like the about of the wiki or the privacy policy. Files is self-explanatory. MediaWiki is for certain functions that you can use that are kind of like that impact the entire wiki, like in a global way. Or categories that we spoke previously, and here you got the templates. So the templates here, what they do are like these building blocks. So for example, if I go to like the nav box, as I said earlier, let me find a good one, probably like for which one is a really nice one? I guess Melty has a nice nav box. So here, this page will be displayed always at the bottom of kind of like all of the character pages here. So for example, if I were to open Miyako's page, if I scroll down, I would say see this. So kind of like templates are very useful to sort of like propagate a lot of information across many pages. And these ones at the bottom tend to be called like nav boxes, and there's actually even more formal ways to set them up. that's kind of like one use of them. But there's also what the templates that you can make for yourself, kind of like in an informal way, so to speak. So for example, let me see if I can find this. What game do I have some? I was gonna be using a template just now, or actually maybe I did it already. Yeah, I already created her page. So for example, for Samshow 7 in this case, this is a game that has been getting characters like left and right ever since it released. So to save me some time in creating these pages, I made what it's called just a template. Again, this is not like a built-in thing for MediaWiki, but it's something that I did because it just saves me a lot of time in creating these pages. So here, for example, you have all of these move lists. You have all of these, sections and stuff and templates that help me cut some work. For example, here at the header, I had like this one that limits how many elements I can show of the table of context. So if I were to take out that, these pages would have a massive table of contents showing up every time that I made them. So in order to, avoid explaining to people, we add this at the top for every single character to avoid having those gigantic table of contents. Sometimes what I do is that I kind of like, in a way, get ahead of myself and do it for them. So what does that mean? Oh, by the way, and here, this template here, this blue box here, this is something that you implement with that MediaWiki namespace. This is something that you can end up showing to kind of like a particular game. So this edit box will always show to like Samurai Shodown. So what does this mean? For this template that I made, I'm just gonna leave here. I actually made it so that if I put this into Notepad++ and I paste it, all of the fields have this string called character. So for example, these images where the move lists would show have this basically blank name in them. I think there's only one mistake that I made here that I haven't really gotten around to correct, is that I also called a variable character. Probably in a way to avoid this would have been, a way to make it better would have been to call this like character name or character color, something like that. But again, I sort of like didn't anticipate this at the time. But like, what am I trying to get at here? If I were to like create a new character page, I could just like grab this, highlight this portion here that says character, press Ctrl and F, and instead of finding it, I would replace this string. So here earlier what I did this is that I called this Gongsun, because this game will be getting a character soon called Gongsun Li. So what I did is that I replaced this string with Gongsun. Here I'm just scrolling here at the bottom because, well, this as I said, if you do it properly, you won't have to do this kind of stuff. And then I even left like notes for myself. When you put stuff in comments here, I'd say, for example, rename the category below to the Gongsuns, to the characters and whatever, when creating a new page. So here in this case, I would put her like full name, Gongsun Li. So let's pretend that I'm creating this page for the first time. I would kind of like edit this if it wants to load. And then I would just like copy and paste it, because as you can see, it's the exact same code for all of the modes and stuff. And then if you show the preview, like 90% of the stuff would be filled in, because again, this character hasn't come out yet. So the page is virtually untouched from when I set it up. This image was added by another editor later. Same with kind of like some other info, because again, this is kind of like to just make my life easier. If I were to look at the history tab, you'd see that in one go I added like all of this much info when I put this in. And a lot of this stuff also, as I mentioned earlier, similar to how in the front page you can have stuff elsewhere, but then kind of like put on the page anyways. It's similar here with these data tabs. These data tabs I set up so that you're calling them from a different page. This is definitely something that most regular users won't do, but I just wanted to show it for kind of like completion's sake. So the system data page has a bit of a long list of characters. So here, for example, these characters that I shown here, you can do it in a much more elegant way with tables and whatnot. Taskloop in particular is really good at this, but some people mentioned to me earlier that they wanted a data page showing kind of like, you know, values for rage explosion, which are concepts inherent for Samurai Shodown. But then these pages are really versatile in the sense that you can have stuff in other places that kind of like gets put together in a single place. I think I also did this for stuff like the hashtags, for example. If I go to the bottom of these pages, you see like each character has a Twitter hashtag. If I click on the external link, however, the hashtag is not really there. It's just a call out because that value it's on these frequently asked questions. And here I have a table with those hashtags. I guess this is tying back to like the more elegant way of showing things. But I don't want to like put a table every time that I wanted to like link it for a different character. So what I did is that information is transcluded. So only the hashtag here is getting put into like different character pages. Again, this is something that might go over some people's head, but I wanted just to mention it for completion's sake. And then with this template, I saved me some time, and now the character page was set up pretty quickly. So hopefully in the next days we'll have all of the info where I can upload these images, you know, by clicking. And you can upload either multiple files and whatnot. This is actually some really nice stuff that Sage has set up for people to categorize their stuff, tying back to what I said at the beginning, to keep things tidy for us admins who kind of like obsess about knowing what belongs where. So yeah, that's kind of like a nice way to sort of like replicate work replicate work instead of having to do it over and over again. So I guess at least for preliminary first video or so, this is kind of like just things that I look for, like kind of like the value of wikis. As you can see, over time they can grow, they can become bigger and richer and have more value to the users, more value to the players and everyone. Also, some of the tips and tricks that I use for certain things. What else? Touching kind of like on the the special pages page, which is actually really handy when you're jumping into a new wiki just to see the status of things, how old, how new they are. And finally, I guess the use of like external text editors in this case that are really handy, like coupled with wiki editing. A text editor is pretty much a must, or a code editor or whatever software, to also, because these ones also like keep their info. Like if I were to close Notepad++ and then open it again, the info would still be there. It has happened so many times that people would just do edits directly on the pages, and then there was like an outage, and then we lost some info, and then actually that discourages people big time. They're like, okay, you know what, I lost all this info, screw this, I'm not gonna do it again. So having a notepad, having like a text editor, external text editor, really does help in having a bit of an insurance or making sure that you're not losing any info. So I kind of just wanted to keep this first stream to only 1 hour, and I'm just gonna leave it here right now for any questions that you guys might have. I think I've been running for like 40 minutes or so, so maybe spend like the next 5 to 10 minutes just answering specific questions if you guys have it. And if not, I might just try to do it maybe like once every weekend, every other weekend or so, because I feel like there's a little bit of a need to sort of like get this info out there that might be really obvious for us who work on, well, not really work, we're all volunteers, but who are really involved in this. But it might not really be that obvious for others who are just kind of like dipping into this. So I might just actually I'm gonna read Discord really quickly on the other tab just to see if people had said something. Let's see. Maybe on Twitter. Yeah, I shouldn't be showing my feed here. Okay, sorry, I just missed this part here. I was thinking about adding one of those random page sections to the front page, kind of like what TCRF has. TCRF, let me see, because I'm not, this might be my inner boomer coming out, sorry. The cutting room floor, like, did you know? Ah, okay, I was thinking about adding one of those random page sections to the front page. The random page or feature article, I don't really know if it's that random. Let me just take a really quick look at this on the rich editor. So no table of contents, feature random. So that's calling a template. Because yeah, templates are actually in those brackets were transcluded from somewhere. Maybe from a page. Let me see. Template feature random. For all listed blurs, so that article, just add them to the list and increase the lead module operation to numbers. I see. Yeah, this could be probably set up with like a Scribonto mode or something. Feature blurs. I guess this, what it says is that, yeah, by using this category, you get this blur cycling or something. I would definitely have to look more if they do it with extension or something, but I guess that's kind of like how they do this functionality. Extensions help a lot, which I guess it ties to your second question, is that they work on extension? I believe so. And the feature thing article is cool too. Yeah, I guess that the way that they do these things is that similar to like desktop, they just sort of like pull this info from other parts. They do have some text here, for example, like this contributing part is just written directly on the main page. But a bunch of this other stuff like this, did you know? This looks to be another template. So, sorry, template, did you know? Yeah, they have, you see, they have like a bunch of different pre-written information, and I guess they just cycle through them randomly. Yeah, they kind of like did this like math equation to cycle through a bunch of these. That's how they do it. And for certain numbers, they have like different statements on how they start the sentences. So I guess that's how they kind of like got around to. I don't think this is actually like an extension. They did this all within Wiki, MediaWiki. But also I guess that this also helps. Hopefully it helps Charlene on just to see how I would like reverse engineer some of this code in a way, because that's more or less how I learned, just by looking at how people did things and try to like copy them. In some instances, I did ask for permission to, like leave some really big chunks of code. I would definitely, give credit for that. What else? He said the work on extension and the feature article thing. Yeah, I guess regarding this example that you sent, with extensions, you can do some things. Others, you don't really have a need for them. Stuff like this feature article, did you know? Some of them, I guess, people when they do the extensions, they see a need for replicate them. So if you go to like Media Extensions, yeah, I totally wrote that correct. You can see like these types. So different types serve different needs. Like over there, for example, you can see some of the skins that you were asking earlier. The parser functions that I believe that you already have on your wiki that are good for like, passing, interact with other wiki elements. Actually, that's a really good explanation. So they're very versatile. Like they're not like 100% necessary, but once you get the hang of them, you can do a lot of stuff. But again, this is a lot more admin oriented rather than user oriented. Once the admins implement these extensions, sometimes it allows users to, do some fancier things, but it's not, as I said earlier, like as long as you get the point across for what you're trying to say, it's not that your wiki will be better or lesser because of it. So I hope that more or less answers what you were asking earlier. Let me just see if again on the Discord some other people ask about some stuff. Okay, Naramisumi. Okay, I think I'm just gonna like wrap it up for now because I gave pretty much like no heads up. But I will be posting this video later, and I will be asking people if this format kind of like works for them, or if they want something a little bit more focused with a little bit more preparation. Because earlier I was just hoping to do kind of like a tutorial session, but one thing is kind of like what I would like to say, but I think ultimately this needs to serve to what people need in particular, what they want to get out of a wiki rather than what I would rather they know about it. So yeah, yeah, for sure. Thanks again for dropping by, and I'll put like a little bit of a tweet out there asking people's impressions once the video's out. So until next time, and take care, and thanks again for dropping by.